Guys, Googling yourself can be a scary wake-up call to how much of your personal information is exposed online, even as a public figure. I'm blown away by how much information is out there about me. That's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, Aura. Data brokers are making a fortune selling your information to robocallers, spammers who want to learn more about you. Aura can identify data brokers exposing your info and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. Brokers are legally required to remove your info if you ask them to, but they make that super hard to do. Let Aura handle it for you. You can try Aura free for 2 weeks by using my link. It's really easy to set up, so you can get things like parental controls, antivirus, VPN, password management, identity theft insurance, and more for less work. You get everything at one affordable price for all families out there. I personally love Aura's parental controls because I can let Aura do the hard work of keeping my loved ones safe online. You can either let people continue to exploit and profit off your private information, or you can go to aura.com/Chael to start your 2-week free trial, or guys, just click on the link below. Islam versus Oliveira 2, what is different this time? And if you're ever doing a rematch, you have to ask yourself that question, right? I have been surprised, and guys, hey, I told you yesterday, you will never hear me speak of the way that I used to speak of Charles. And I never did that to be a jerk. Charles has been nothing but a gentleman to me. We have a mutual friend, Gabriel Checo, very good friend to both of us, right? So if Charles got a friend and I got a friend, right, it kind of makes us, so I've never looked to give him a hard time. I've just been here a long time. I've been here. I fought on the card where he fought Jim Miller and he got submitted in an E-bar. I'm sharing with you, to see somebody's growth is a little bit difficult. You kind of remember their career from every part that you saw. And I saw him lose 8 times at different weight classes. Oh, by the way, sporadically getting beat by the scale. That just sounds like I put him down, doesn't it? No, I'm trying to explain for you. This is from my perspective, because it is difficult to see growth. A guy's got the right to learn. He's got a right to mature. He's got a right to grow. Robbie Lawler would be the finest example I've ever seen. Robbie Lawler, it was going to be hell for 5 minutes. But if you get out of that first round, your chances of winning went up exponentially. If you could get out of the second round, you're probably going to win. I could go as that far with it. You're probably going to win. If it's a finish, it was probably against you, right? Like, there was just some numbers you could go with Robbie. He wasn't late fighter. He was first round fighter. And then late in his career, he makes a gym change. He switches some stuff up. Guys who had ATTs talked about how disciplined he was with strength and conditioning. But the longer the fight went, the better Robbie was. And I stole that quote right there from Matt Brown. I stole that quote right there from Rory McDonald. So you do see this, right? You do see this now and again, where the guy gets better, but it's just hard to put your finger on. It's hard to give him credit for that. And when I look at Charles, see, this is very relevant, though, guys. It's very, very relevant. What's going to be different? Okay? Because if we're doing a promotion, it means we're doing a story. Rematches historically are very good. I also openly admit have underappreciated the star power of Charles Oliveira. To watch that Canadian crowd treat him the way that they treated him. When he's doing an interview in Portuguese and having, right, the interpreter, you never hear a loud pop from the crowd when there's an interpreter. Sometimes you get some good words, you get a little bit of a message out for sure, but you don't get a loud pop from the crowd. They just don't give that kind of reception when it's in a language they don't speak and they're hearing a second time from a guy they don't want to hear from with a different tone and bass in his voice. Well, they did for Charles. I got to give him that. Because ultimately, we're just looking at, right, what makes the most sense? What's going to be the best for business? That's what everybody needs here, particularly when you've got so many things that are equal. So what is going to be different this time? And that's important to answer because the first fight, there was nothing about it that calls for a rematch. There was nothing controversial. There was nothing competitive. And there's different ways to lose. But if you lose at your game, that is single-handedly the worst way to lose. And I can't remember a time, I cannot remember a time in history where the rematch result was flipped when the first contest was a stoppage and with the guy's own game. What am I talking about? I'm just talking about groundwork. It's very different if Charles goes out there and gets knocked out. It's very different if he goes out there and gets wrestled and ground and pounded. When you get beat on the floor and you get submitted and you're the black belt in jiu-jitsu, I mean, it's one of these things. It's really hard to come back from. So if we can't answer that question, we have to give a very good look. Parity matters. We got to give a very good look to the Gaethje-Poirier angle. Now, Gaethje, if he got a win, Gaethje, if he gets a win over Poirier, Gaethje, for political reasons, is greatly aligned to make that happen as long as it isn't given to Charles ahead of time. As long as Gaethje can even get to the date with Poirier, without this announcement coming in, he's fair game. And then you go look at Poirier, who doesn't have the same political. He is not going to be as good with the bureaucracy, but boy, that's Poirier. And if he wins, he's going to have the BFL belt. And then you look at your parity, right? Parity has to matter. And if you're not going to put Poirier in there, then you're going to put him in the next time. Right? If you put Charles in for this and Poirier's the BMF belt and beating everybody and will be the top-ranked guy, you put him in the next time. So what difference does it make? What difference does it make if you put him in now? And I'm not leaning towards that, guys. I'm just creating a conversation with you because the most interesting thing that came out as far as was that a number one contender's bout, I'm talking about Dariush and Oliveira, is the winner wasn't named the number one contender. Not yet. In fact, by the time you see this video, that might have changed because allegedly there's a meeting simultaneously with me making this for you in Las Vegas right now where they're going to decide that question. So it might get to that point. And I think that you have a very hard time when the champion is waiting. The match is in October. Each day is getting closer, and the only fight that you would be looking at that possibly could replace this is going to be the bludgeoning of 2023. Gaethje and Poirier are not going to be returning to the ring in an extremely fast manner. They're going to be beaten up. I mean, this is a very aggressive match that they've got scheduled, so it would make sense, I think, to maybe pull Oliveira into that, but it hasn't been done yet. And the number one thing that will help Oliveira is if Poirier remains silent. Now, Gaethje spoke up on this. Gaethje said, if Benny loses and I win, I'll be fighting Islam. And if you understood, again, I referenced the bureaucracy and some of these other things, but if you understood that, you would see that's probably a pretty powerful statement as long as that spot is still open. The spot in the dance card gets filled because Oliveira moves up. We're all done talking here. But if Poirier comes out and did an interview today, say, hey, listen, my understanding here, this is the number one contenders match. That was my understanding. It's a title match, for goodness sakes. The winner goes into Islam. You're going to have a completely different conversation with Poirier remaining silent. Because you'll see guys that do this sometimes. You'll get the right answers from Chael, but every now and then, it doesn't play out the way that Chael said. Well, you're not taking into consideration. So many times you will default and fall to somebody that you never wanted, but you end up here because these two other guys bombed, right? I mean, you do a sandhag and you're not going to get the match. They were real interested in giving Merab a match against Sterling, and that was 2 fights ago. That was the night that Merab beat Jose Aldo. Oh, you go in the ring and you say you don't want the fight. It's a different thing. So I would just bring that to your attention. As you're starting to wonder if Charles is going to be the number one contender, you got to make a bet right now, guys. Gun to your head. Take that. Take that. That's most likely what's going to happen. But if Gaethje is to win and Charles as to it, which is what Gaethje said. Gaethje believes he gets the nod. Head-to-head competition is going to matter. They met head-to-head. That would put Oliveira a little bit in front. But big win over Poirier, BMF title. It's a real interesting spot. It's a real interesting spot to keep open for Gaethje because you also have the idea that Gaethje is into it. We don't know if Poirier is. If I hold this and I make this the #1 contenders bout and Poirier wins, Poirier, are you going to show up in October and fight Islam? I'm right. But those questions have to be answered. This is all part of it. So step 1, keep Poirier quiet. Step 2 for Oliveira, make sure you can answer the question. Charles versus Islam part 2, what is going to be different?